Hello, and thank you for watching this regional forecast for the Canadian Prairie. I'm Andrew Pritchard, Senior Meteorologist with Nutrien Solutions. So look at the weather story for the coming week. We're talking largely about a dry, warmer trend across the Canadian Prairie. We do have a storm system that's going to be making its way across northern regions here over the next several days, May 31st into June 2nd, that could bring some light precipitation to northern portions of Alberta, northern and central Saskatchewan down into central and southern Manitoba. We're talking about light 5 to 15 millimeter precipitation amounts. Again, as we transition to a warmer pattern across the prairie, as we build a ridge in across North America, that's going to lead to a much warmer pattern from the prairie down into the central U.S. as we head into the first week of June. Over the next week, warmer and drier across the prairie. Again, we have that storm system making its way through kind of this corridor as we head through May 31st into June 2nd with some very light precipitation, by and large dry across the prairie until we get to around June 5th, 6th, and 7th. That's what I'm watching for the potential for a transition to a much stormier and more active pattern here, one that could feature some severe weather across the Canadian Prairie. Again, as we get into maybe the June 6th through the 12th period, week 2. So right now, warm and dry, we'll focus on that. But do know that that week 2 period, I'm watching for a transition toward a much more unsettled pattern. Let's go ahead and take a look at the satellite picture right now. We've got a disturbance making its way through eastern portions of the area right now. Cooler air coming in on the back side there. If we go ahead and just hit play on this one more time, you can see the circulation here making its way from southern Manitoba into Ontario down into the Great Lakes here as we get into the weekend. Let's flip it over and look at the radar picture here. Again, looking at some light showers, maybe across the Edmonton area, by and large looking dry across the prairie here early on this Friday morning. And as we go ahead and take a look at the precipitation forecast here from the NAM model, again, watching just these light showers making their way out of the east, quiet as we head through the overnight, quiet as we head through the day on Saturday, and then as we begin to head into Sunday, we'll start to see that storm system emerging through this region, bringing just some light precipitation kind of where I'm cluttering the map with these hatch marks there, and that is going to be, again, through, as we head into the first part of next week, Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday, some of that very light precipitation across that region. Until we get to that point, through noon on Monday, again, watching some of that precipitation emerging across northern Alberta. This is just some of the very light trace amounts of precipitation we could see here over the next 12 hours or so. But looking at a dry and a quiet weekend across the prairie, and a dry and quiet next week across the prairie as well, as we start to build in a pattern that looks something like this, with a ridge across the midsection of the country, or the midsection of North America through the U.S. and through the Canadian Prairie, allowing for that warm up and kind of taking storm systems, deflecting them up and over the top of that ridge. Now the pattern change comes in at the end of next week. We're getting to June 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th. You're seeing the transition. We're starting to kind of build a trough across the Pacific over Western Canada. And as we transition to that pattern here, as we head into week 2, this is going to set us up now for a much more active pattern. Now we're kind of in this area of upper level divergence. We're watching for storm systems to develop across the prairie. I meant to draw that in red, but you get what I'm getting after here. We're getting storm systems developing across a more favorable region here, and then tracking across the prairie. This could again lead to the potential for showers and storms across the region and much more frequency, but also the potential for some severe weather. This could set up at least, maybe an active week or two across the northern plains, the Dakotas, into Minnesota and parts of the prairie here, with maybe the chance for a couple rounds of severe weather as we head toward the other side of June 6th. I'm spending a lot of time talking about the details of week 2, when really the focus over the next week is going to be some warmer and drier weather across the prairie. Again, as that ridge builds in across the central U.S. into central Canada, going to be looking at a lot more in the way of warmer temperatures expanding across the prairie and across the northern plains of the U.S. And then as we look at the precipitation forecast here, again, we're watching for a quiet weekend. We're quiet now as we head into Saturday, getting into Sunday. Now as we get through May 31st into June 2nd, watching this storm system kind of do this little trajectory. Again, maybe some light showers making their way all the way into southern portions of Saskatchewan, maybe southeastern, the southern portions of Manitoba, maybe southeastern Saskatchewan, but this one going to be bringing most of its precipitation north of Highway 16, north of the prairie. We're now heading into Monday and Tuesday, getting into Wednesday. Another little area of low pressure tracking mostly north of the prairie, getting deflected northward by that ridge, keeping the prairie dry. And now we're getting to June 6th and June 7th. This is when I'm more concerned about things turning more active across the prairie, the potential for showers, the potential for some thunderstorms, and maybe even the potential for some severe weather as we get to June 6th, 7th, 8th, and beyond. We'll flip it over looking at the total precipitation accumulation here over the next 10 days. Again, rather quiet as we head through the first part of the weekend here. This is getting into Saturday, taking it into Sunday. Here comes our little storm system, May 31st through June 2nd. This is now late Sunday, getting into Monday, Tuesday. We're now into June 2nd. We're going to continue to be mostly dry across the primary Prairie region here. Taking it into Wednesday, now June 3rd, June 4th, still dry across the Prairie. And now as we get into June 5th, 6th, and 7th, this is when I think we're going to turn much more active across the primary Prairie region. Well, where is it not going to be completely dry? As you head back toward the northwest, I do want to give a shout out to the Peace River region because we will see some precipitation across that region, the potential for anywhere from 15 to 30 millimeters of precipitation with that storm system on May 31st through June 2nd. Let's finish then with a look at your high temperatures. Fairly steady here in Calgary. I should say that, we may see an adjustment slightly downward into the mid to lower 20s for your highs here in Calgary over the next 10 days. Edmonton, very similar, low to mid 20s. Saskatoon warming up, highs in the mid to upper 20s as we head into next week. Similar look here in Regina and Winnipeg. Those highs anywhere from 24 to 28 degrees as we head through June 6th. Again, watching for a transition to a potentially more active pattern in week 2. Have a great day, a wonderful weekend. We'll talk to you all again on Monday morning.